We are going to go over some basics of Italian verbs, specifically looking at something called conjugation and how this is actually useful for talking about things that happen to different people and also at different times of the day or the year or of a lifetime. Okay, so let's start out nice and simple with what is conjugation. So if you've never seen this word before, it might look a bit scary. It's a big grammar word, but it's nothing too bad. Conjugation is basically, okay, in fact, I'm going to type this out just so it's a little bit easier to see. When the ending of a word changes depending on who we're talking about. All right, this is a very, very simple definition of what conjugation is for the practical context of learning Italian. Now, if you have any grammar experts in the audience, then they're going to strongly disagree with me on that, but it doesn't matter. For our simple purposes, okay, let's take a verb like parlare. Yeah, this means to talk. Okay, so in Italian, if we want to easily say I am talking, all we do is we change. In fact, let me write out this a couple times. All we would do is we would change the ending to an O. This tells us that we are saying I talk. If we want to say you talk, we would say this. So this is just an example of what conjugation is on a practical level. This is actually quite a nice feature of Italian. In fact, the endings of the words, they give you quite a lot of information as to what's going on. If something is talking about me or you or the present or the future or any of this kind of stuff, we have a lot of information. So once this sinks into your brain, it can become quite useful. Now, we've looked at I and you so far. There are, of course, many different people that we could refer to in a conversation in different times of the day, etc. So we will get into all of that. Next, okay, let's talk a bit about infinitives. Again, this is a big, scary grammar word that it doesn't need to be so bad. Okay, what is an infinitive? At a very basic level, okay, I like to think of this, let's draw a pretty diagram here. I like to think of this as the kind of root form of a verb. So let's take a word again, like parlare. This means to talk. Okay, just remember that verbs are doing words. Like talk, run, think, laugh, cry, fly, any of these things. In English, at least, every sentence has to contain a verb. From the top of my head, that's true in Italian as well. But we don't need to look for specifics. But verbs are going to be very important for anything that we're talking about in Italian. Obviously, every sentence we speak pretty much has an action. I'm going, I want, I'm going to, I have, I think, etc. Okay, so what is this infinitive gubbins that I've started to talk about? Okay, so parlare, as I mentioned, is the kind of root version of the word. So if we want to say I talk, we already saw in the beginning, we would say io parlo. Io just means I. Let's just stick that over here. If I wanted to say you talk, I would say tu parli. Tu meaning you. And again, we can see these correspond with the ending. So when something ends in I, like this, we know it means you are talking. Okay, now this specifically, this is in the present tense. So this is in the here and now. As in, I speak, I'm talking right now, etc. But obviously in Italian, we want to talk about more than just in the here and now. We want to talk about different times. So for example, in the past tense, we would say something like this. In the future tense, we would say something like this. Okay, we have a lot of different tenses in Italian. Well, in any language, but obviously if you're learning Italian, you'll be cognizant of that. So let's just fill in some of these, a couple more of these. If we wanted to say something like this, and what I'm filling in right now is just not all of them, but a lot of different forms of the word parlare. So let's just talk about some of these really quickly. So over here, okay, we've got I talk, you talk in the present tense. This is I talked in the past tense. This is I will talk in the future simple tense. This is I would talk in the conditional tense. This is I talked a very long time ago in the passato remoto tense. Okay, now you notice here I just did I, but of course we do have you versions for all of these as well. So, just going back, what does the infinitive have to do with any of this? This is kind of the root version of the verb. As I say, I treat this as kind of like a tree. So the present tense is linked to this. The past tense is linked to this. The conditional is linked to this. The future tense is linked to this. The passato remoto is linked to this. If you want to be a bit more specific about it, you'll notice all of these different versions of the verb we've looked at have this parl section in it. This P-A-R-L. P-A-R-L, 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 and like this. The only bit that actually changes is the ending. These last three letters, which here is are, this changes to an O, this changes to an I, this changes to an ATO, this changes to ERO, this changes to this bit. So this parl section is the kind of root that joins all these different bits together. And that is why I think of it as a root. Okay, now why am I bothering to tell you about any of this stuff? Okay, because it all links together in a really predictable pattern. Okay, so let's go over here. I'm just going to give you another simple example in the present tense. Let's take our trusty parlare. Okay, I'm just going to fill these in. In fact, I'm going to write these out just again so it's nice and easy to see. I'm going to say io parlo, I talk, tu parli. I'm not going into detail with all of these. I'm going to do a separate video on how to do this, but I just want to give a general overview of what conjugation is, because I think a lot of people do struggle with this, especially if you're learning it from English. So let's just fill parliamo. We talk and voi parlate, you guys talk, and loro parlano, they talk. Okay, so what do we uncover here? So we saw in this left section of the diagram where we have present, this kind of stuff. The O and I are the first two endings, if you want to talk about it that way. So if we talk about basically what we've done, we are replacing this ARE with these letters here. So we're replacing ARE with O, we're replacing ARE with A, etc. with all of these different combinations, if you want to think about it that way. Now, this is good news because this is a predictable pattern. So if we take another verb, for example, let's do portare, which means to bring, more or less. We actually see that this has a very similar pattern. Let's make this a little bit bigger. We would say io porto, tu porti, lui, lei porta, noi portiamo, voi portate, loro portano. Okay? Cool. So, what do we notice? Here, these endings, they are actually the exact same as what we see with parlare. That is good news. So we can see for the I version, it's O. For the U version, it's I. For the A version, it's A, etc. Okay, we can go on and on forever. That is pretty much it. That's everything I wanted to cover. Let's talk quickly about tenses. So let's just go back here. So just to recap, the infinitive, I'm going to just put it in the middle of this mind map. The infinitive is what we use to go to all of these different places. Okay, so it's important that we are able to identify what the infinitive is. Oh, actually, hang on, this is a bad label. Let's be a bit more specific. So hopefully you can read my handwriting as well. I'm doing this a little bit in a rush. So the infinitive is what we use to go to all of these different places. I'll give you a couple of examples in a second. I don't know. We can literally go anywhere. So, okay. So if the infinitive was parlare, as we looked at now, the present tense would be like I talk. The future simple would be like I will talk. The passato prossimo would be I talked. The conditional would be I would talk. The imperativo would be like talk, like a command. You must talk, like an interrogation. The congiuntivo would be like if I talked. So the infinitive is a kind of way. Remember, the infinitive is when a verb, it looks like this, is the way that we get to all of these different parts. So that is pretty much a overview of what conjugation is, why we use it, what it's for. And yeah, I'm going to make another video in just a minute about how we actually go through this process with some simple examples, which I'll link on screen.